Hello and welcome to this video on the replication problem in research. The replication problem is occasionally referred to as the replication crisis, although this may be somewhat extreme. It describes the growing problem facing many life and physical sciences. The worst affected have been the areas of psychology and social science, but they are not alone. Biomedical research, sports science, and medicine are also common problem areas. The underlying problem can be summarized with the following example. Researcher A conducts their experiment and produces a manuscript which passes through peer review. They claim their methodology produced the statistically significant results in their paper. Researcher B comes along and thinks that their work could use a similar method to explore a problem. They set up their experiment using Researcher A's methodology and fail to get the expected results. Researcher B repeats this experiment several more times at considerable cost to their project, before going with yet another method from Researcher C. Researcher C's methodology works, and Researcher B is able to test their hypothesis. On an individual basis, this is a problem of wasted time and expense, both of which could have been used to benefit the growing body of research out there. On a larger scale, this problem represents a major issue. Individual projects lead into larger studies. Larger studies get published. Others then attempt to rely on this information. This leads to a great deal of funding from governments and private business being put into dead-end projects. To put this problem in context, between half and nearly 3/4 of researchers surveyed in 2016 were unable to reproduce their own or someone else's research results based on the same methodology. This means up to 3/4 of people are relying on or citing research that they have used that is flawed or in limited cases fraudulent. Medicine is a case study of failure, with rates somewhere between 20 and 75% depending on your definition of reproduce. They looked at 49 clinical trials and found 44 had been tested a second time. Of those re-examined, about 16% found contradictory results. Another 16% found stronger evidence than the original study, and 44 found similar or the same results as the original study. That means that 60 in every 100 studies are generally correct. 16 have evidence against the original work, and the rest remain untested. This examination was still only an ad hoc analysis of therapeutic studies. Something more specific and rigorous was needed to vindicate claims of replication problems. In a more pure research area like economics, in which you can account for a lot more of the variance and confounding variables, one study stands out. Testing this area, researchers found they could replicate 14 of 18 studies reasonably well, even with greater sample sizes which should have identified any weaknesses in the study design. This 80% more or less falls in line with what you might expect from research. The vast majority of findings should be replicable. This approximately 20% failure rate owes to one thing in particular. To a degree, luck plays a part with every piece of research, and it likely will affect your results on occasion and anyone else's. This is because when you are sampling a population, there is always going to be some random background chance. This is why replication is important. Secondary to this is the always present risk of overestimating the finding's strength. This is a problem psychology is especially prone to with small sample sizes and weak statistics. This is also why a lack of larger sample sizes, the lack of strong statistics, and when researchers do things like p-hacking, become a problem. The last being a process by which numbers are gerrymandered, or different equations, variables, and similar are tested until a significant result is found. When properly designed and explained, research should be able to be replicated. This is seen in a second replication study which partners the economic replication paper. The researchers found that they could only replicate 13 of 21 studies, or 60%. Even then, of these 13 studies, most had findings with far less power than the original study claimed to demonstrate. What should strike you as truly interesting from this study is which of them could be replicated. In particular, those studies by the Many Labs 2 project. They failed to get half of their 28 psychology experiments to work. One that did work was their examination of intuitive prediction. This asked gamblers to evaluate which of the 28 studies would succeed. The gamblers demonstrated a surprisingly good grasp of which studies would succeed, even without knowledge of the field. Further to this, the Many Labs 2 project addresses one of the replication problem detractors' core arguments. Many Labs 2 ran in 36 countries, with just over 15,000 participants. What they found is culture and location did not seem to be a significant factor in the success or failure of the psychology experiments. This seems to be true in psychology, but does not hold as consistently in other fields such as medicine. This may be due to a lack of laboratory-level control of the research variables in other fields. There is one publication in particular worth highlighting for their summary of the problem. Begley and Leonidas in 2015 wrote, "Reproducibility in Science, Improving the Standard for Basic and Preclinical Research," which points to the following 5 issues. That the generation of new data and publications is occurring at an unprecedented rate. There is compelling evidence that the majority of these discoveries will not survive being retested or examined again in the future. That there is a failure to adhere to good scientific practice in the desperation to publish. That this is a multifaceted problem with many partners involved, including publishers, researchers, and universities, to name a few. That no single party is solely responsible. And this problem is worse on a global scale, China being especially notorious for their research black market, where you can buy results, methodologies, and just about everything else to publish for your particular agenda. This is all part and parcel of the growing rate and volume at which research is published. For all the delays peer review might cause on average, the number of papers per day, week, and month seems to grow every year. The only path open to some researchers who want to stay competitive is to push the boundaries of the grey areas in research. This leads to the present replication problem. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.